The only time that I really watch Fox News, I watched Maria Bartiromo yesterday interview the president, that is Donald Trump. Maria is a very solid conservative. She's smart. She tells the truth. She's not the equivalent of Sean Hannity, the Tokyo Rose of Fox News. She asks hard questions. And she asked the president the question, why is it that the Department of Justice and the US courts, the federal courts, have taken no action? The president responded, they're missing in action. They're Awol. They're not doing anything. They simply go on to the next president. This is exactly what I discuss and outline in my book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. The president, who's gotten bad advice for 4 years from lawyers that have more of their own interests at stake than his, finally gets it. And it's time for the American people to get it as well, because we do not have a legal system that will stand up for the people of the United States. These judges, federal judges in particular, are bought and paid for. How do they get their jobs? Money talks and nobody walks. Political campaign contributions. Some of them have given hundreds of thousands, even $500,000 to get their judgeship. One judge up in Rhode Island, the disciple of Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who I call Sheldon Outhouse, as I've said many times, a mafia-infested state, $500,000. Another judge in Washington, D.C. gave $38,000 for his job, money bundled from Wilmer Hale, the law firm of Robert Mueller and Jeannie Rhee, not coincidentally of the Russian collusion scandal. This is what we've got. And this is why Thomas Jefferson said that choosing judges that are unelected, that are there for life, of course, they're not there for life. I point out in my book, they serve only for good behavior. That's a misnomer. Will give rise, as Jefferson said, to despots and tyrants, which will then require the American people to wage revolution every 20 years or so, shedding the blood of patriots and him adding what's a few thousand dead to refresh the tree of liberty. Now, as I've said, Jefferson didn't want people to die, don't want them to be hurt, neither do I. And that's why it's important that you read my book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. Read the Declaration of Independence before you read the book. This book is timeless. It's not like the other books that came out before the election. These are the horror stories. These are the terrible things that were done to the president. Vote for President Trump, whether it's Sean Hannity or books by other public interest groups or whatever, ghost-written books primarily. This book gets to the core of the problem of the endemic corruption in the executive branch deep state, where even the Department of Justice and the courts will no longer take action. And the courts, of course, are part of the judicial branch, which is the biggest problem of all. And then the legislative branch, which just talks and doesn't act, money being stuffed into its pocket by special interest lobbyists, becoming richer and richer and richer. How did Joe Biden become so rich after 47 years in the Senate? Does anyone honestly believe he made that money in the proper way? Let's look at the Ukraine, Russian, and China collusion scandals, the bribery that took place, that the social media won't cover, another aspect of corruption. So, at the end of the show, when it was over, Fox News put Frank Luntz on, the establishment Republican pollster. Now, I have nothing against Frank Luntz other than the fact that he's a Republican rhino, wants to get jobs. I call him Frank Putz. Should be his real name, Frank Putz. Because this guy said that the president was subverting democracy by going on with this proceeding to try to prove that there was massive fraud. Clearly, there was massive fraud. There's no doubt about that. But his hapless and incompetent lawyers and the corrupt courts won't address it. That's a fact. And how can you subvert something that doesn't exist? We have no democracy. This country is run by criminals, thieves, and fools. We have no democracy. We have no republic that's left. And that's why it's time for we, the people, to rise up, to wage a peaceful and legal revolution, doing it with citizen grand juries where we bring the guilty in front of the bar of justice, the people's courts. We can indict them, we can try them, we can convict them, we can sentence them, and yes, we even have the right for citizen's arrest, although I don't advocate doing it in any violent or physical way. But we need to start thinking about these things right now, because this country's slipping away. And I'll tell you something. I'll bet the ranch that the Democrats take control of the Senate. And when that happens, and as the president recognized, there are already 800,000 paper ballots out in the mail by Stacey Abrams, who Joe Biden says he's going to make attorney general. Can you imagine that? An inquisition, a purge, something that's coming for anyone that does not agree with the radical left, the radical Muslims, the radical Marxians on the Jewish left, the radical LGBTQ, I can't even pronounce it anymore, the radical atheists, the radical Muslims, all of them teaming together to destroy this country, to divide it up. They don't care if anything's left or not. Nothing will be left. And this country is on the verge of extinction. And that's why I want you to get my book. It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. I'm not making money off of this. This is something which was in my heart. I had to write. I had to put it all together because I do these columns every week for WorldNet Daily, but I had to put it in one spot so you could read it. And that's what's so important. You know, it was our founding fathers that used the printing press to coalesce the colonies, to challenge King George III, to form a new republic, a country that we thought would survive long term, as long as we refreshed the tree of liberty. Well, it's time to refresh that tree of liberty now, before it's too late. Not with violence, but with firm conviction, under God's grace, and using the tools that we have, the tools of taking back our legal system, which has been stolen from us by the corrupt criminals and fools in Washington, D.C. The time is now. If we do not act, in short order, we will have no country. That's my message for today. We can give Thanksgiving that we're all still alive, but I'm not so sure that's going to be the case much longer unless we get up off the couch, turn off Fox News, turn off Hannity, and get to work. God bless you. God bless America. God save America. I'll be back tomorrow with another special podcast. Until then, thank you for listening to me.